Okay, this is the fourth session out of 4 with Geller Insurance, and we're just finishing up direct bill reconciliation. And what we hope to accomplish today is, after we finish direct bill, is to jump into the bank deposits and then paying producers, paying vendors, paying carriers. We talked about paying carriers a little bit on our first day. And you'll notice the workflow should be familiar because it's the same process through most of that. But we'll also talk about vendor accounts payable, where you can have automated transactions, which is really nice. If they're the same every month, or if there are similarities, you can use the accounts payable. And journal entries, and then we'll talk a little bit about bank accounts, and hopefully discuss your beginning balances at the end of the call. So that's kind of our agenda for the day. We really don't have that much to do to finish up this direct bill statement entry that we started yesterday. We are off. If I go to the bottom of the screen, it tells me how much more I have to go. And so I'm just going to put all that on one line item, 77, 78, 58. So let's find, there's a likely policy there. What was it, 77.58, oh, 77.78.58. 78 and 58 cents. So that now when I click save, my total ought to be right on. I'm going for 88.24.88. That's the amount of my receipt. And on this one, we decided to not do any adjustments, so it should match to the penny. And if I can get that screen to refresh, it will. There it goes. Okay, at the bottom of the screen, okay, remaining balance 0. So the total amount that we've selected is 88.24.88. So this one is in balance. I haven't yet created the invoices, but I've set up the ones I want to create. And so to the next step then to create the invoices is just use your options on your menu bar, and it says create invoices. Now if I have a recon that's got a lot of line items, I can create them in batches. I could do the first 10 and create those, and then do the next 10 and create those. And you can do them in smaller batches if you like, or you could just do all 172 all at once. Some people like to save their work and get that moved off their plate so they can just focus on the next batch, but that's up to you. So we'll get a confirmation pop-up here in just a second. It does seem to be running slow today. I know the GoToMeeting will affect it a little bit, but it should be faster than that normally. Okay, we have total of 8. With the commission amount correct, so you can hit create invoices. That just confirms what you're about to do. And this ought to take, it seems to do it in 10-second intervals. It'll either take 10 seconds or it'll take 20 seconds for about this many invoices. Looks like this one might take 20 seconds. There it goes. So the invoices are now created, and you'll notice that by each of the invoice ID numbers that there is a letter S in parentheses, and that's just an indication that that invoice was created by statement entry, or direct bill entry method. So whenever you see that beside an invoice number, you'll know, well, this particular one was created through statement entry. The ones that are created by commission download will say CDL in parentheses beside those. While we're on this screen, these invoices are currently unposted. So you can see under quick navigation, we're currently in the unposted invoices bucket now. We were in statement entry, but when we told it to create invoices, it grabbed that bunch that it created and dropped them into this unposted invoices, which is really nice because now I have a chance to review the commission for my producers and say, okay, that looks actually like, oh, wait a minute, that one's a rewrite. That one should be 15% or something. And since these are unposted, when you click on the invoice number to make the adjustment, it's not really an adjustment because you're actually working on the live invoice that hasn't been posted yet. So when I go down here to change this producer's commission to 18%, this is all happening before I post. So there's no need for a -1 addendum or anything. It's just the original invoice that I updated. So now this one's at 18%. So you can do a quick view down the list and just make sure everything looks like it's correct. And if it all looks good, then when you're ready, you just click Post Invoices. And notice what it does. Well, first it's going to confirm. And this will take about the same amount of time that it took to create them. Well, or a little bit faster. It moves the unposted invoices now into the posted bucket, which is called Invoices Direct Bill. And they're already selected. So we started in statement entry, hit create invoices, it moved it here. Post invoices, move it here automatically. And so now we can see our recon is in balance. There's no more virtual amount out of balance here. Our receipts equal our income. So this one's ready to post. Does that make sense to everybody? Again,
even if you did them in the small batches, you would still come to this ultimately with those amounts matching and post in that manner. You wouldn't post them in small batches, right?
you can post the invoices in small batches, but you wouldn't post the recon until you were done with all the invoices.
Right, okay.
A lot of people like them to accumulate here in the unposted bucket.
Got it.
And then you get them all there. You can see all the producer commissions. You could look at your total as a group, all 175. But they don't like working on 175 here because every time you select one, it drops to the bottom of the list. And before long, you'll have 170 down at the bottom of your list. That anyway, they like to get them out, and it's a personal preference. So if you do that, just let them rest in unposted invoices until you have all of them and your balance looks good at the bottom. And then if you post them all as a batch, I think that's an easier way. But it wouldn't stop you from posting small batches of invoices along the way if you prefer that method. Either way. The only thing that really matters is that they're all posted when you post the recon. And that virtual amount goes away. That means you're in balance. Okay, so that's direct bill reconciliation. And if you're interested in debits and credits, of course, they all show here under the last link under quick navigation. So I'm going to click my back button here, reconciliation summary, to take me back out. And we're back out of there. So if we don't have any more questions on direct bill for now, then let's jump into deposits. Throughout our training, we've been receiving payments that have come in, but we have not yet told the system what bank account those are going to go into. And so usually daily, but whenever you do a deposit with your bank, an actual physical deposit that you take to the bank, you'll want to record that same deposit in NEXSURE so that all 26 checks that are part of that deposit get put into a single deposit in NEXSURE as 26 checks. Or if you have an electronic funds transfer, those come in as individual deposits because that's how it will look on your bank statement. Each one is its own deposit. So let's use a couple of different methods. We have these receipts so far that haven't been deposited. So depositing in NEXSURE is really pretty easy. You just go to the Deposit tab. And let's deposit that electronic funds transfer from Hartford first. So you simply go to the bank account that you want to deposit it in, and then you click Add New Deposit on the right.
So EFT receipts still have to be deposited?
Yes.
Okay.
They do, but the user group has requested a feature that will have a checkbox on the receipt. And actually, this one's going to be coming out pretty soon. So that when you receive an EFT, there'll be a little checkbox over here on the right that will say create deposit for this EFT. And if you check the box when you post this, it automatically books the deposit instantly. So you don't have to do that step. But that's not in the system yet, but they have that one on the table right now. So that's coming. So let's go back to deposit. And we wanted to pick our operating account to book that deposit to commission. Here's the one I started just a second ago, but I didn't finish it yet. So let's open the details. And it's pretty simple. You just pick the date, you put in your anticipated total. Description would be something like that, January statement, whatever you like. And under quick navigation, you just simply click the receipts button, and what that does is it shows you all of your undeposited receipts. And so I would pick that Hartford one, I would click include. My difference goes to 0 because it all balances, and so I post it. And so when you get the hang of that, you could process that in about 10 seconds. It is something that needs to be done, but at least until they have that checkbox added. But so that was an EFT deposit. Let's do one a little bit more complicated. Let's deposit some customer payments or finance company payments that have come in, and we need to put those in our trust account. So you go to your trust account, and you can have as many bank accounts in NEXSURE as you need. Our training database only has 2. So I pick my trust account and add new deposit. And this one, let's say, is cash and checks. So cash and checks, instead of leaving this on EFT, you would change that to deposit. And I don't know what I have out there. I haven't seen what's out there. So let's just call this daily 2515. So when I come out here to receipts to see what I have, I might have already prepared the deposit that I'm actually going to take to the bank, and so I would know what that number is. Let's say this down payment from data source, ABC logging. What else have we got in here? Here's another ABC logging, and we'll take that one there. So let's see what we've got. If I hit include all selected, it says that we have 15,976. So I'm just going to sneak back over here to the header, put in 15,976 as if I'd already done the math. And now, there we go. Now it balances to 0. So cash and checks, you would go and select all the items that are part of that deposit, and then it should balance the amount that you had anticipated. So it says 0, so this one's okay to post. Now there is a nice report. I don't know if you still like to print out the paper copy and file it with your actual deposit data or your deposit slip that you get from the bank. If so, there is a deposit slip report that that you can print out to paper if you like. Maybe blow that up a little. So it would look like this. It would have all the line items for each one with the total. And if you exceed the number of cash and checks that it allows here, it does keep a count here for the total, but down below there's an unlimited list. If you had 100 items today, you'd be able to see all of them here in detail of each amount that makes up that deposit.
Does the bank accept those?
That depends. Sometimes that depends on the bank, because this is not their magnetic micro toner that they can slide through their machine. So they have to type this number in by hand. And so sometimes they will, but it just really depends on your bank. You still need to put the date and sign it. Well, if you need cash, you don't have to sign it if you don't need cash. But you would put that date on and hand it in with your cash and checks and see if they'll accept it. You can program this number down here to be your actual bank account number. So some will, some won't. So if you want to print one out and take it into your bank and find out what they say, then they'll probably will, because you know when you walk in the bank and you don't have a deposit slip because you ran out, and you use one of those that they have, one of the generic ones they have there for you to write on, they accept those. And so most banks, I think, would accept it, but I have heard sometimes that they don't. Okay, so if you don't need a paper copy, anytime you want that report, you can come into that deposit, open the details, and you could get that just by clicking print. Now this one, that's a different one actually. But by clicking print and choosing deposit slip, you can print that at any time. You don't have to do it when you post. Yeah, this one actually hasn't been finished. Yeah, there's nothing in there. So, okay, any questions on deposits? If you run a balance sheet report, let's take a detour for a minute to talk about some reports. If I go over to accounting and choose a category of general ledger, I have several of my financial statements here: trial balance, income statement, balance sheet, GL details reports for debits and credits in a particular GL account. I'm going to run the balance sheet summary. I think that's a pretty clean report. When you run this report, I'm going to view one that Mary ran actually. You'll see a GL account called undeposited funds right here, $561,000. Now that's not very good unless you had a really big account and you haven't deposited the check yet. But if you see a number in undeposited funds, what that means is that you've received money, but you have not yet recorded the deposit. And so it sits in undeposited funds until you deposit it, and that's when it will debit your bank accounts. So if you want to know what makes up that number, there's a report for that'll show all the items that make up that balance. And that is under accounting, and the category for that is reconciliation, and it's the very last one on the list, undeposited funds reconciliation. And so if you run that report, it gives you a detailed list of every item that makes up that outstanding balance. So you can easily say, oh, wait a minute, why didn't that get deposited? Or we need to get that one in. And this is several pages. Usually you won't be this far behind. At least I hope you don't get, these are back from 2012, so I hope you're not that far behind. Anyway, when you get to the bottom, it will tell you the grand total, and then it will show that you're not out of balance. So that the items on this report match the general ledger balance, so that you can validate that number. Hopefully you just have a few, if any. At the end of the day, on any given day, if you've recorded everything, that'll always be 0. While we're talking about the balance sheet, it's pretty typical as far as balance sheets go. You've got your assets at the first section, liability, your total assets. Then you have liabilities and equity, and then of course your total equity and liabilities should always equal the total assets. But the layout is fairly clean. It's got nice subtotals for each different group and type that we've set up. Okay, any questions about the balance sheet or undeposited funds? While we're here, let's take a look at the income statement. Since we're talking about general ledger reports at the moment. The one I like that I use most frequently is the income statement summary. But you can experiment with these others and see which one you like best. And the income statement summary looks like this. Same format, where you'll have the different categories, the agency bill income, and right now it's only got one GL account in that section, direct bill, fee revenue, and commissions. This looks like it's pretty basic. Expenses, you've got your expenses, and they're all subtotaled by group and type. Administrative has a few accounts in it. And then at the grand total, your grand total is at the bottom, showing the total profit or loss. If it were a loss, that number would be in parentheses. That's what this means here. There is a third page. Usually on a lot of NEXSURE reports, your criteria will print out on the last page of the report, just so that you can know what your date range was, what your criteria settings were for that report. Okay, any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let's see where we are on our agenda. How about paying commissions to an employee? The way that you explained it to me the other day, as you post invoices, it accumulates the commissions payable for those producers. And then probably once a month, you would go and pay your producers their earned commission.
Correct.
Okay. Let's go ahead and work through that process. Now, there is a report you can run to see what commissions are due to them. While we're here, I might as well run that report also. The report category for commissions, it's actually a reconciliation report because you're reconciling what's due to them. You're reconciling what's due to them. And it's called People Payables Due Reconciliation. So if you pick that one, and I'll go ahead and start a new one here because we've had some activity that wouldn't be on when it was already run. So we'll call this as of what's today, 5. And if I want to, I can break the page between each grouping, between each person. So we'll let that run and see what that looks like. I'm just hitting refresh every few seconds. There we go. Wow, 160 pages. We're getting a little bit behind in our training database. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'll view that by clicking the magnifying glass. And let me blow that up a little bit. Too far. Can you read that okay?
Yes.
Okay, the person named Train A NEXSURE has only written one policy for $5 back in 2013. So yeah, we're behind on that one. If I hit my page down key, I can see the producer called Attend 1 has a lot more business here. Looks like they have a lot of reversals and a lot of. This is all for that one producer. Let me get down to the grand total for this one. Wow. Let's see what we get here. Attend 1, Attend 1. Believe it or not, this is all that same producer. I'm going kind of fast. Oh, there we go, Attend 10. Okay, here's the grand total for the producer named Attend 1 with their number. The column headings look like this. You have the name of the producer, the client names, who is assigned, and this would be the producer's name, and whether it's agency bill or direct bill. Invoice number, bill type, the date booked and the effective date, of course, come in, the carriers, the original invoice amount, the amount that you've paid so far. I'm sorry, that's the amount that's been paid on the invoice. So that would be, of this $1,140 due, the client hasn't paid anything on that yet. So you probably wouldn't want to pay the producer for that one. On this one, it's been fully paid because these numbers are the same. And so you probably want to pay the producer their $50 here.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
So why is that in there then?
Good question. If you have your posting rules set to, let's see what yours are set for accrual. Your current setting is that if you are, if you post an agency bill policy, it says pay on invoice, which means even if you haven't been paid, it's going to release that commission to be paid to the producer. So your current settings are going to behave this way. So even if it's zero, it's still going to say you could pay that producer $75 even though you haven't received your money. So if that's not correct, we'll want to change that before you go live.
Well, that's on agency bills.
Right, on direct bill, it will not show anything here until you receive payment.
Until it's invoiced. Okay, that's what I was more thinking about.
Okay, so if you receive 50% payment on this one, then it would release 50% of the producer's commission. If you receive full payment, of course, it releases all of it. And if it's zero for direct bill, it won't even show up on this report.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about.
Okay, yeah, but agency bill, it's going to behave just like this. Okay. According to your current posting rules. So you could accidentally pay this producer for this policy even though you haven't received your $1,500 yet.
And what would you change to affect that so that it wasn't until it was paid?
The setting is, it's a department setting. So if I go to Organization Departments and open up one of my departments, it uses whatever setting that you had set up early on when you did your organization setup. So this one, the agency bill is accrual and pay on invoice. This is just the way you have it set now. So what that means is that it's going to release the producer's commission as soon as it's invoiced. If you change that to pay on fully paid, then what that means is that it won't release any commission until you receive every penny for that invoice.
Accounting method.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you need to change that, you should let us know very soon, because you don't want to go live on the other method and then post a bunch of invoices and then switch methods. It's better to get it fixed up front. So does that sound agreeable to you the way it is, or are you going to consider changing that?
I think so. Wendy?
That's the way we have always done it.
Yeah, I think that's fine. For agency bill, I was just thinking, I was picturing direct bill and why that would be on there if there was nothing paid, you know. So that's what I wonder. But.
Okay. Yeah, for direct bill, you won't see anything here on your report. On this one, yeah, this one's fully paid, so it shows $66. And this direct bill is fully paid, so it released it. But if you won't see any zeros here for direct bill.
Okay. It generally wouldn't be too much of an issue.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's the report. Now let's go do the actual work. I'm going to click my accounting shortcut, and we've been using Teresa as a producer. So when it's time to pay Teresa, I want to do a reconciliation of the items I'm about to pay. So we use reconciliation for that. And when we add a new reconciliation, instead of choosing carrier or client or retail agent, we're going to choose people. And we'll type, you can type first name or last name. And there she is right there. Okay, so this should look familiar to you because we've done this. The screen is just the same as when we pay others. So I could say this is for January 2015 commissions. So then over here on Click Navigation, if I click, well, one thing I want to do, I would like to create and post the disbursement when I'm finished so that all I have to do is go print the check. So by checking that box, it automatically creates the disbursement when we post this. And I want it to come out of my operating account. So you need to choose your bank account. So yeah, that's the operating account. So under transactions, this is where we're going to find all of the items that we owe for Teresa. It looks like she doesn't have too much, but these are the ones that we have just created recently. So typically, you can just click Select All and go ahead and pay what they've earned for the prior month so that you clean them up every month. For any reason, if you need to withhold one, you would just uncheck that one. Or you could say, I don't want to pay the full amount this month for some reason, so you could click the details on that line item and say instead of $12.50, I'm going to pay them $7.50 on this one. And then the balance will be sitting there next month. So now there will be a $500 balance next month to be paid. And so when you've checked everything and it looks like they don't have any, Teresa didn't have any direct bill, or they would be in a second window down below, but it's showing 0 of 0, meaning there is no direct bill within that date range. Let me open up the date. Well, there's no date range selected, so that's it. That's all that we owe her for. So to pay these, then you just click Pay All Selected. It tells you that you've selected 6 items for 205, 750. Oh, because we haven't, it's telling us what we've paid so far. I already paid that $750 line item by doing the partial payment. There we go. So the total of all those line items is $955. And that'll be her check as soon as I post this. So again, it lets me preview the postings. It does pass through this Recon clearing account, but the disbursement will have the debit for that account, so it washes in and out of that account. So that's posted. If you'd like to take a look at the report that comes with it, it looks like this. I'll have to blow that up a little to see it. On the screen it's going to come out really small, but I can expand that there. So this would be a report you could give to your producer along with their check. Oh, we should have done some adjustments on here. We'll do that on the next one. You may reimburse them for travel expenses, or for, you may have some extra bonus commission that they might get, and we can do one of those next. So that's the report. And then if we jump over here to the disbursements and then look in the operating account, it'll be sitting right on top. We're ready to be printed. So here it is right here. I'm not going to print it yet because I want to show you how to do batch printing. But if I wanted to print this right now, I would just click Print, and it would ask me for the check number, and I would put in the check number, and it would come out on my print. Well, it would come out on the screen so you can send it to the printer. But I'm going to leave that unprinted for the moment because a little bit later on we're going to do a batch of checks. Okay, let's do one more for someone else, and on this one we'll do some adjustments. So let's add a new one, and for people, and I think that one in there, I think it was NEXSURE Attend 1, had a whole ton of them, page after page. So let's grab this one, and we'll call this January. I do want to, it remembered what I checked last time, so it even remembered the bank account I used last time. So if you're processing a bunch of these one after the other, it will remember the prior settings that you chose on the last one. So I go to transactions, and these are old, so let's just pick a bunch of those. Now this is 269, and I'm only looking at the first 10, so I can bump the view there so I can see more at once. So now I could, you know, grab those, grab this one, and then I could go down to the direct bill section at the bottom. It does agency bill and direct bill in two separate windows. So here's some direct bill items. There's some 2013 ones I might as well clean out of there. So when you've selected the items you want to pay, you click Pay All Selected, or you could hit Select All to clean it out for the month. And it gives you a total of what you're about to pay. And so now we're at $857.60 for our disbursement, but let's say we need to reimburse some travel expenses. So I go over here to Adjustments and Add Row, and we'll look for, I think we've got travel expense account in our training data. No, let's try entertainment. Here's one called entertainment. We should have, you'll have travel expense in your GL, I'm sure. So we'll debit that account, the amount, $256, and you can have multiple line items here, and we could say this is for client lunch. I don't know, you probably want to use your meals for tax reasons. You'd want to use your deductible meals and things like that. But so there's how you do an adjustment. And let's do another one for a bonus commission. Maybe he's getting his quarterly bonus. And so I think we did find one called bonus in this one. There it is. So, and let's say he gets $1,560. And that would be a wait a minute, we're paying him bonus. That's not income for us. This is an expense account. Whoops. It's not bonus income for the agency. This is bonus let me go down to the expense accounts and just search. Let's see what we've got. Well, I don't seem to have one here for bonus, so I'm just going to use payroll. And that would also be a debit. Okay, so now instead of being $857.60, his check is going to be $2673.60, mainly because of that quarterly bonus. So I'm going to post that, and then let's look at the report that comes with it. And you can see how it itemizes the adjustment line items. So if we want to print the reconciliation report, it looks like this. Okay, let's blow that up a little bit. So you have all of the line items for which she's being paid here, and then at the bottom are your two adjustment line items for the $256 and the $1560. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to go back over to our operating account, we would see two. Well, I'm going to pick the right bank account there. And then right on top, we'll see a couple of them now that we've created. NEXSURE Attend 1 is that producer name, and here's Teresa. And neither one of these are printed yet. nor have they cleared the bank. Of course, they haven't cleared yet.
I do have a question.
Yes.
When we do our payroll commission checks to the producers, use those out-of-line things to enter their payroll tax liabilities?
Do you withhold taxes on their commissions as well as their salary, or just on salary?
We have to.
Okay. Then yes, you can use that adjustment, the adjustment lines, to put in their payroll information there.
Okay.
So you'll have tax withholdings and all that can go in there.
All right. Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Let's see. Very good. One thing that you could do, if you wanted it to remember all of those, well, we can work this out, but you could set up a recurring accounts payable transaction so that each month the line items that you normally use for their commission check will pop up automatically, and you can just type in the dollar amount so that you don't have to keep hitting add row and search for the account, add row and search for the account. There's a way you can do that so that it will it'll remember that. But if you do it that way, you won't be able to do the automated have it automatically create the disbursement. We would have to come to disbursements and add a new one manually and go grab that recon that we created with all those entries and pull it in. So you'd have an extra step here, so it may be a wash as to how much time it would take. But we'll figure out the one that works best for you when you're live, and you can decide how it's going to work out best. I want to show you accounts payable next, because that's where we can set up recurring transactions or transactions that have a lot of line items. and especially if you use the same line items every month, it's nice to just have a recurring template to pull from instead of having to recreate that each time. So are we ready to switch gears?
Okay.
Okay. Come over here to accounts payable, and let's start out. We're going to talk about vendors now, and there are two ways you can pay vendors. One is you can just go cut a quick check and have it expense right off the check. And the other is to use the accounts payable system, which is where you can set up those templates that I was talking about. So I'm going to start here, and let's choose our operating bank, and let's just set up a vendor check, just the quick and dirty way. So add new disbursement for a vendor, and I'm not sure who's out there, so let's click search, and let's say Office Depot. That will be an easy one to start out with. Just say OK. So this might be for paper and pencils. I'm not going to put the check number in yet. Well, if you have it sitting in front of you, you can put it in, or you can put it in when you print. I'm going to leave it blank right now so that we can include this in our check batch that we're going to do later. So I just come over here to General Ledger and add row, and I'll look up office expenses here. I'm sure I've got an office expense account there, office supplies, and let's say that this is $512. Okay, and then I would just post it and print it, and click OK to confirm. So that's just a quick way to do a quick check. I just went straight to disbursement. I pick my bank account. I type in on the header screen what it is, and then I go to General Ledger and grab my office supplies account and debit the account. So that's just a quick, straightforward one. If I had to do this frequently and I needed 6 or 7 GL accounts each time, I would prefer a method that brought in those GL accounts so that all I had to do is type in the dollar amount. So for that, I would switch to accounts payable. Accounts payable is also used when you want to book the invoice in advance to get that expense on your books, but maybe you don't want to pay it for 30 days or 45 days. So you'd use accounts payable for that, where you type in that accounts payable invoice now, But I might not pay it till March 15th, but I want it to sit on my books as an expense now. That's another reason for using accounts payable. I'm not ready to cut a check, but I still want it to expense on my books. So that's why some people, another reason to use accounts payable. So let's use an example here of something that's recurring. Instead of clicking Add New to put a new accounts payable item in, I'm going to go to Add Recurring to look up my template list. And somebody's got one in here called Monthly Security Expense, Rent. Oh, we got rent in there twice. Here's a credit card bill and IT services. So let's pick the credit card bill and say OK. The reason I picked that one is that this one is a common example of one where you'd have a lot of different GL accounts involved. And so I'm going to put in my credit card bill now and as an account payable item. So if I look at my statement that I got for the month, it's telling me that the grand total is $1,789.22. And out of that, $548.32 is gas. I have about $112 in postage. And what's our office supply? Wow, $1,128 in office supplies. Sorry. And you would probably have more GL accounts listed. I'm still 90 cents off. What is it? I don't know which direction to go here. There we go. Now I'm in balance. And maybe you'll have here along with this, if you don't pay off your full balance every month, you may have a credit card interest expense that you'll have to add each month to pay the interest on if you're not paying it off every month. So you'll have travel, you'll have office food and donuts and lunches and meals and entertainment and all that you may have on here on a regular basis for your credit card. So you would probably have more GL accounts listed here on the template. But once you have that entered, as soon as you click Save, and by the way, you can say this isn't due until the future, but I'm booking the expenses today even though I'm not going to pay it yet. Or you can just leave it on today's date. I can override the description that I have set. Maybe I want to call this January credit card. But it brought the description in from the template. So when I'm ready, I'll just save that. And that lights up the post button so I can post it. So that's an example of a template where it pulls in the GL accounts that you already have preset. So my template's still there, so next month I can go to Add Recurring and use it again for the next month. You can do more with templates. If I want to, let's see, what else do I have here? I'm going to use my filter, where's Show Filter, to show you some others that are in place that are automatic. Probably like rent. Rent is one that you might set up as a recurring item that happens every month. So let's just look at recurring. And I think there's rent right there. Well, why would Office Depot be the payee for rent? Or Comcast? That's not realistic. But let's pick this one. Wait a minute. This one's an auto posting one. That's what I was looking for. Auto post. So let's look up Whitefish Therapy. And this particular vendor has one set up with a fixed dollar amount that's the same every month. And so when you set it up as a recurring transaction, you can set the properties to tell it that I want this to occur monthly. That's it on the 10th day. I just washed that out there. Let me go back in. There we go, on the 10th day of every 1 month. If I put every 2 months, that means it happens every other month, every second month. But this is on the 10th day of every month, beginning on October 9th, continuous, or I can say for 12 occurrences or end by 12/31. Not only do I want it to create that entry every month, but I also want it to automatically post. So it's going to post and be ready to be paid right away because I know the dollar amount doesn't change. So why not have it post as well so that the 10th of every month I've got a posted account payable item ready to process. So I'm going to click Save, and this one is the template, and it's happening already on the 10th of every month. So if I open up my filter here, I should see a few of those. Show. Oh, it's still on recurring. So do I see Whitefish? There's Whitefish Therapy a few times. It's been posting this every month on the 10th. There's December 10th, Whitefish Therapy December 10th, Whitefish Therapy January 10th. So it can automatically generate that item and have it ready to be processed. So accounts payable is a good area to work in. If you cut your own payroll checks instead of using a payroll service, then accounts payable is a good place to put in the payroll template for each of your employees. Let me see if there's one here. I didn't notice one for payroll earlier. No, there isn't one. One of my other training databases, it'll say something like Dahana Payroll, and that would have all the GL accounts that we usually use for Dahana. And you could just go in and plug in the dollar amounts for her for this period. If you use a payroll service, then you wouldn't need to use accounts payable. This is only if you're going to cut a check will you use this. If you're using a payroll service, we'll set it up as a recurring journal entry instead. I'll show you that in a minute. So let's say that we've entered a bunch of accounts payable items that we're ready to pay. So when you're ready to process these, you come over here to Auto Process Accounts Payable and click that link right there. What that'll do is it'll go and find all of the unprocessed payroll items that haven't been done yet, and that'll come out of my operating account. Did we really only have one? I guess the others might have already been processed. I had a filter setting set, so let's try that again. There we go. So here's our American Express one that we did today. Somebody put that in as a negative amount, like it's backwards. So I'm not going to put in a negative checks, but let's pick this monthly security one there. I'll have to look at whoever set that up. I can go in and fix that, but these have posted as negative amounts, and I certainly don't want to create a negative check. It won't let me post those. So I'll go ahead and pick these two that look correct, and then if you click Process Accounts Payable, it creates disbursements for those two items, or 20 items, or 50, or however many you had waiting. I've just processed those, so now they'll be sitting over here in my disbursement list. So they're done, and if I come over here to disbursements for my operating bank account, I'll see those disbursements right on top. Here's my ADT, and here's my American Express. There's the Office Depot one we did earlier, and here's my 2 commission checks. So accounts payable is really handy if you got a lot of line items to set up, and you can do that as a recurring transaction. You can do them manually without a template just by clicking Add New, and then I would search for whatever the entity type is, and we'll choose Comcast. And then I could manually go in and click Add Row, Add Row, Add Row until I get it set up. But if I'm going to do it next month again, I might as well check the recurring checkbox so that I have that template to use in the future. And I'm going to abort this one because we don't need that one. Oh, by the way, go ahead.
I was going to say, are you going to show us how to set up those recurring checks when they're EFTs?
Yes, you wouldn't use accounts payable, you'd use journal entry. So if it's just EFT that comes out of your bank every month?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll use journal entry for that. The reason why you don't do it here is because when you auto-process here, it doesn't give you an option to choose EFT. It just creates a check.
Right, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so like, yeah, we'll use journal entry. The journal entry recurring functionality looks just the same. So let's jump over here to disbursements, and I guess we just saw that. We saw these checks we just created. Actually, they're waiting to be printed as checks. The check number right now is 0 for all of those. Let's jump over here to journal entry since we're on topic here, and I'll show you the same process using journal entries. Of course, at any time you can click Add New and just create a journal entry from scratch. So if I have, let's just call this bank account interest, then I would come down here and search for my bank account, and I can click search and I'll grab my trust account bears interest, let's say. And so I'm going to debit that account 3 cents because that's about what I get each month. And you remember the days when you'd get like 4 or 5% on your bank accounts? Let's see, let me look by name. I think we've got an interest income account. Yeah, bank account interest right there. So we'll credit that account 3 cents. Okay, so this is just a simple journal entry that you can just do from scratch. And that's great for small ones like that. But if it's going to happen frequently, why not create a recurring template? So if I click here, instead of Add New, if I click Add Recurring, I can see I've got some in here that are common. Bank transfer between banks in NEXSURE done with a journal entry. So if I click OK on bank transfer, it brings up the bank accounts, and you may have multiple combinations that you set up because money moves to money market, or you might have different accounts involved, but this is just a pretty generic one. So if I'm moving money out of trust into operating, then I'll credit my trust account that much, 125,689, 125,689, and this came from a template. It's not an automatically posting template. That wouldn't make sense for a bank transfer. But it did come from a template. It brought up the GL accounts that I need for that, so I could do it more quickly. So save and post. So there's a quick one from a template. Now you had a question about EFT. So if I had an EFT transaction, what's an example of one that happens frequently for you guys?
Our IBQ charge.
You said IBQ charge?
Yeah, it's a rater.
Oh, okay. Now I should know that. Is an IBQ charge, and I'll pick up an account number for that, and I'm not sure we have a grade account, but it should be a sales expense, probably rating, advertising, vendor fee. Oh, well, looks like I don't have a rating, but I'll just pick this one called MVR. That's close enough for this example. And what's a typical amount each month for that?
195.
Okay, and then I could put, just for my own sanity, this is an EFT. And we'll add row, and this probably comes out of your operating account.
Yeah.
So I'll pick my operating account and say OK. And so it's going to look like this every month. So what I would do then is come up here to recurring and check the box, and let's set some properties. So what day of the month does that usually come out?
Hannah?
I don't recall. Maybe the first, but I don't really remember.
Okay, so I'll make that monthly, and I'll say on the first day of every 1 month, starting March 1st. And I want it to be continuous, or continuous for 12 occurrences, or end by 12/31/15, because the rate may go up. And if I know that this is going to be the same, I might as well have it automatically post each month. But if I want to review it before I post it, then I would not check that. It would create the unposted entry, and I'd have to come in and post it. So you can have that set up that way and click OK, and that's done. So now if I come back here on March 1st, I'm going to find this posted entry for $195 in my journal entry. Then when I do my bank recon and I'm looking, I'll see that $195 charge that came out of my bank as an EFT. So that's kind of how the recurring entries work. And if this were payroll, and you had a payroll service, then of course you'd want to set up recurring payroll entry so that that one you would not want to have automatically post because the dollar amounts are going to change. But you do want it to create every payroll period you want it to create the entry, and then you can just go in and plug in the dollar amounts. So when you set it up, you would pick all the correct GL accounts, but you would leave the dollar amounts at 0. So that each month you can just come and plug those in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Journal entries are pretty nice in NEXSURE. They're very easy. We try to minimize the reasons for journal entries in NEXSURE so that as you're doing normal daily transactions, you shouldn't have a need to use a lot of journal entries. But the ones we've talked about today are common reasons. You got interest, you got bank transfers, you got depreciation, you've got payroll if you use a payroll service. Those are all common reasons. Okay, let me look at my agenda, see how we're doing. We've used up an hour, but if you don't mind, I'm going to keep you on the phone until we finish. And we're actually pretty close. We did that, and deposit receipts to the bank. We paid a producer. We didn't pay a tax authority. When you collect surplus lines and stamping fees, do you always pay the carrier, your MGA or general agency, or do you have to pay the state?
No, we pay the carrier.
Okay, so we don't have any reason to do a recon for a tax authority. That would be for a state tax authority. So when you pay those carriers for those taxes, when you go in to do your carrier payable reconciliation, you'll see that each tax line item is a separate line item. Like if we go to pay auto owners, and as soon as you come in here to look at the invoices for agency bill, it'll list the premium line, it will list the tax lines, each individually, so you'll be able to pick them all. So we don't need to do tax authority. We did paying vendors and accounts payable, journal entries. Okay, 2 more things. Batch printing. So when you have a group of disbursements, you can, like we did earlier, you can go in and print each one individually just by opening that item and clicking the print link. But why not use the batch printing? So I'm going to go to my operating account where we've created those checks that have not yet been printed. And I'm going to select all and create a print batch. Once you've pulled a check into a print batch, it cannot be pulled into a second print batch. It can't be used in a print batch after that. So just so you know, if you pull it into one batch, that's the only batch that can be printed from. That way you don't accidentally print a check twice. So I'm just going to let it default to all these default settings. The check style came in because I set that up as my default for that bank account. I do want to preview it as PDF, and my printer, I could send it to one of my printers, but I don't want to waste paper, so I'll just send it to Adobe. Print now, because I'm printing it now. Do I want to print the associated remittance reports? On these 2 producer statements, they both have remittance reports. ADT, American Express, and Office Depot don't. So a remittance report comes from a reconciliation, and we only reconciled these 2 down here. So if I check that box, then it will print those as well, and I can tell it, I don't want those to go to my check printer. I want those to go to a different printer because I don't want those to come out on check stock. But my checks, I could send to this printer, for instance.
Would that also print like account current statements if you were paying a carrier?
Yes, when you say account current, everything that you picked in the reconciliation would show up on that report, but it would not show items you did not select for payment.
Okay.
So when you use account current, I think of the method where you pay a carrier everything that you book for the month, and then they send back a reconciliation where you've got to make corrections sometimes.
Oh, okay.
As account currents, the meaning of that is different. So yes,
Okay.
I would have done a reconciliation for that carrier, and so by checking this box, it's going to send that report to this printer for each of my carriers that I'm paying.
Okay, thank you.
And I want my checks to come off my check printer, so I'll pick a different one there. Actually, I think I'll print, yeah, that's okay. So this is how you do a batch, and if you say okay, then it's going to, and hopefully I have my, okay, batch has been added. Okay, and so it's going to do two things. It's going to show me the check numbers that it's about to use, and it looks at the sequencing and says, okay, yep, these are the check numbers that I want, so you say okay. And then it's going to give me two print jobs here. One of them is going to be my, here it comes. I would hear my printer crank up, and they would start coming off the printer if I had sent them to a printer. My reconciliation reports will show, wait a minute, this is that other report I had open. Let me get rid of that. Oh, and that's our posting rules we were looking at. So where's my print jobs? What will pop up on the screen is the remittance advice reports, and those you'd have to, for each one of those, you click the print icon from Adobe because it comes up in an Adobe window. But my checks would have come off the printer, so that then when you go in and look at a check, it updates that. Let me just see if it updated the check number. That's check 528 now. And let me refresh that screen. It'll show all my check numbers here. I come back out. So 527, 526, 25, and 24. So those would have just come off my printer if I had sent it to a printer. And if you need to look at one or reprint one for any reason, maybe this first check that came off, something went wrong and I need to reprint that, or there was plain paper or something. If you click print again, it gives you your check printer there. Or you just click OK, I guess. And it lets you could change the number if that check got messed up. Or you can reprint the same number if you need to. And then that'll just print it to the screen. And of course, from here, you can just send it to the printer by clicking this print icon from Adobe. So that's how you do a batch print of checks. And if I now wanted to create a new batch, notice I can't select these items anymore because these have already been printed. It won't let me pull them into a new batch. If I have to reprint them, I have to go into them individually to reprint them. Okay, as far as bank reconciliation, I like to wait until your first month, but I'll show you where it is. Over here under bank accounts, if any of you have ever used QuickBooks, our bank reconciliation is very much like the QuickBooks bank reconciliation. It's really user-friendly. You come over here to your bank accounts and you pick the bank account you're going to reconcile. And there's a tab here called Bank Reconciliation. And from here, looks like Teresa's already got one finished here. I'll open the details of that one. Each month it will ask you the statement date, and it will have you put in the ending balance from your bank statement. And it will show the beginning balance, which was the ending balance from the prior month. But you can't change that. You can't override that. So this will become the beginning balance for next month. But you put that in, and then you go to Transactions, and it's just a matter of going down your bank statement on paper and checking off the line items in NEXSURE as each one has cleared. And then in the bottom section, this is where the deposits are. So you'd go down and select all the deposits that came in. Oh, there's my output. I shouldn't have picked the XPS document for my printer. So you simply go down and check the ones that you've that are on your bank statement. And if you find one that's not here, like there's a transfer that's missing or an interest income that you've received, that's fine. Just click Save, go put the entry in, come back here, and then select it. So you can stop in the middle. You could go home for the night and come back in the morning and pick up where you left off. When you're finished, it keeps track at the bottom. When you're finished, your remaining should be 0, because here's your disbursements and credits are cleared, and here's the deposits and debits. Anyway, that subtracted from your beginning balance, that'll tell you that you're now in balance, and it won't let you post it until you are in balance. So that way when you post it, you're ready for the next month. Now the first month that you do this, you're going to find, this is all these checks. There are going to be 5 of them here, because I picked that Microsoft printer. So it should be, I think, there we go, that should be the last one. Sorry about the distraction there. So when you print or when you do your bank recon, then next month you'd click Add New and do the next month. You can't do them out of order, so I couldn't do April before I do March. It requires them to be done chronologically so that you always have that beginning balance being the ending balance from the prior month. Oh, and when you're done, there's a really nice report you can print if you'd like to have a paper copy to staple to your bank statement. Let me expand that so you can see it. And it'll show you all the items that were cleared for that month and give you a detailed report. And if you don't want to waste paper, you don't have to print that. You could print it at any time if you ever need it. So bank recon, I'll mention when you put in your beginning balances from AMS when you're coming over live in NEXSURE, one of those balances is going to be a big debit in your bank account, and each bank account probably have a debit balance. So when you do your first bank recon, one of the transactions that you'll pick, your starting balance is going to be 0 in the bank recon, but in the deposits and debits, you're going to find your beginning balance journal entry. And so you will need to pick that your first month to get it to balance. And also any uncleared checks, there will be a line item for the lump sum of uncleared checks that you'll have to check. And I'll help you with your first month, or Martha can help you with the first month when you're ready to work on that after you've been live for a month. So finish your bank recon normally in AMS, just so that you know that you've got everything transacted. And then when you switch over to NEXSURE, you know, we'll pick up where you left off in AMS. And hopefully your bank recons are balancing in AMS. If they're not, you need to resolve that before you bring your beginning balances over. Or else you'll end up writing off a balance in NEXSURE if there's a difference. So it's good to clean those up if they're not in balance in AMS. Okay, I think we've pretty much talked through everything on the agenda. Well, account cleanup. Let's talk about account cleanup on another call. Basically, you would do a reconciliation, and you would, like, let's say that you've got a lot of reversals. Do you have like 5 more minutes?
Yes.
Let's just do this. It's not that hard. So let's say that we've run a carrier report, and it has a lot of ins and outs, reversals. And we had one of those the other day that we did for data source or ABC logging, where when we went to do the disbursement, we didn't want to pick the ins and outs because we didn't want the carrier to see that. But those still need to be cleaned up. So on our carrier payable report, you'll see these ins and outs, and I'll just pick one that's already been run so that you can see what they look like. Let me blow that up a little bit. Here's one. You know when you find one because it'll have a dual invoice number like this, 25655 and 25715 is a reversal. And here's the back side of that. The 25715 is the reversal invoice of 25655. So on your report, you've got $900.60 in and $900.60 out. And you don't ever want to show that on a carrier statement, so it needs to be cleaned up. And this one was auto owners. So if we want to clean that up, then we simply go over here to our accounting shortcut, and we do a reconciliation for auto owners. Yeah, carrier is right. And there's the parent, primary. And so this is going to be a 0 recon. And so I'm just going to say clean up reversals. Or some people prefer the word offset. Whatever, you're just picking ins and outs. And I'm not really creating a disbursement when I'm done here. This should balance to 0, so I should uncheck that. So you just go look for agency bill invoices, and I have to clear my filter to find those. And they've already been picked in another recon. That's why they're not here. But I do have double D enterprises here with an in and an out, so this is what it would look like. Somebody has already started a cleanup and selected those invoices. That's why I can't pull them into another recon. That's why we can't see them here. So, but this will illustrate what we're trying to accomplish. You pick the in and the out, 4,000 in, 4,000 out. So when I click Pay All Selected, it tells me I've selected 2 items for a total amount of 0. And that's what we want. We want to clean those up. So those are done. All my totals are 0, so I would post that. And it's showing me my general ledger. Basically, it debits and credits each item to wash it out. That's perfect. So this one will no longer show up on a carrier payable report because those have been cleaned up. And I'll bet if I go into my filter and I look for auto owners, and I look for unposted transactions, so in one of these I'm going to find those items that had been selected that we were looking for. Not in that one. I'm going to abort that one because we don't need this one anymore. And if they're not here, then they could also be tied up in a disbursement or another transaction, but usually we use recons for that. Nope, they're not here, so I might as well abort that. So possibly they used a disbursement. So sometimes when you're looking for items, it could be, if they don't show up, it's because somebody has selected them in a different transaction. But they haven't posted it yet, so they still keep showing up on the report. Those are all posted for that bank. Let me look in the other bank. There's one there. So let's go see what invoices are sitting out there. Nothing for agency bill. Okay. Then maybe it was in a receipt. Anyway, I could spend some time looking for this, but sometimes you'll be looking for an item and it just won't be there. And nine times out of 10, it's because somebody has auto owners. Somebody has tied that up. Okay, it's probably here. No, that's invoices, so it's not going to be there. Anyway, I'm not going to keep looking for it now, but they're tied up somewhere. So cleanup is a matter of creating a reconciliation and offsetting the items that need to be cleaned up and then posting it. And then they quit showing on the report because they've been paid. I'm holding up air quotes with my fingers. They've been paid by offsetting them against each other. Okay, that covers the items from the training agenda. Before we hang up, can I ask you a couple questions about your beginning balances?
Sure.
Have you decided on what you're going to use for your accounting live date?
March 1st.
March 1st. So you're going to continue to transact in AMS through the end of this month?
Yes.
Okay, so in NEXSURE, you don't want to post anything. So don't post any invoices. Don't post any receipts, any deposits, any checks. Keep doing all that in AMS, but not in NEXSURE. And then starting March 1st is when you can start posting invoices in NEXSURE. Okay, and the other thing is I sent you that beginning balance instruction sheet so that you can read over that to kind of prepare for what needs to be done. Have you had a chance to look through that yet?
Not really. After we got hit with the big surprise on those sync lists, we've just kind of been trying to figure out how to get all those done.
Which big surprise?
The sync list.
Oh, okay. You're working on your data conversion sync. Okay.
Yeah, and Patrick was a big help with those, so I think we know what we're supposed to do.
Okay. So has your date changed for your conversion?
Yep.
Okay. So the whole thing got pushed back. Okay. All right. So that'll actually be good. So yeah, just continue using AMS until March 1st. Now, is March 1st also the date for your data conversion?
That's our go live date, so everything's supposed to be
Or
done
March
in.
1? Okay. So between now and then, you just have to remember everything we talked about, right? No, don't worry about it. We'll walk you through transactions. The first week or two, we expect to hear from you quite a bit.
I hope so.
And Martha will be available. I'll be on and off available. Patrick will be available. We have Mark and John in support. Teresa and Mary. You're not alone, so don't worry about it. And the first, you'll be pulling your hair out. I'll tell you right now. The first week, you'll be pulling your hair out, and that's fine. That's expected, and just roll with it. It gets better. You just got to get over the hump and the training curve. But then
Right.
it's going to smooth out, and you're going to be happy. And but there'll be a couple of days you'll say, "Why did we do this?" and you're probably already expecting that. But
Oh, yeah.
but just knowing that in advance and just roll with it. It gets better. And yeah, we are here. We're here to help you.
And we discovered, Dave, that there's absolutely no way that we'd be doing the conversion as of February 9th because the final run from AMS hasn't even been requested.
Oh, okay. So you got to wait for your data from AMS still?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You want to get a fresh copy before you go live.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that gives you some breathing room, too. You're not under the gun here. So you can go in and look at your receivables and payables, make sure they're in balance, make sure your bank recons are all in balance. Look at your balance sheet for any weird balances and clean those up. And that way when you bring your beginning balances over into NEXSURE, they're as clean as they can be. That's the ideal.
That's what we're trying.
Okay, good. Well, we're here to support you between now and then as well, so just send an email off, or email is actually more effective than phone calls because I spend most of my day on the phone, and if you call, you're going to get my voicemail most of the time, so email is a really good way. And Martha should be included in those as well because she's part of the team for your implementation. So, all right. Do you have any other questions for today?
No, but I'm sure we'll have more, and we'll just send you emails.
That sounds good. And I'm going to turn off the recording now, and I'm going to make it available by Dropbox, and I'll email those links to you. They're about 100 megabytes each, and so it is a really big file each time you want to download one. But once you download it onto your own computer, you can view it at your leisure. So, all right. Well, thanks for your time today. We'll be in touch.
Oh, thank you for all your help.
You're welcome.
Thank you
All right.
so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.